Welcome back to our channel, guys. Today is an absolutely fascinating day to dive deep into the shadows of our favorite drama. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get ready to unpack some of the most intense, mind-bending developments we've seen in a long time. I have to start with the absolute madness of what just went down with Haley. I mean, we all knew her dark, twisted obsession with ending Bill was going to reach a boiling point, but I don't think any of us saw this specific brand of poetic justice coming. Imagine the sheer, unadulterated hubris it takes to be so consumed by a murderous fantasy that you actually visualize your target dead, only to blindly pick up the wrong glass. Haley accidentally drank her own poison. She literally swallowed her own toxic medicine and she almost died right there on the floor. And who saves her? Bill. The very man she has been meticulously plotting to put in the ground is the one who rushes to her aid and gets her to the hospital in the nick of time. There is something profoundly disturbing about this dynamic. I can't help but feel that Bill is either the most oblivious man on the planet, completely blinded by his own ego, or he's subconsciously playing a highly dangerous game of his own. But let's be real, he saved her life. If you ask me, surviving this near-death experience isn't going to make Haley grateful or force her to see the error of her ways. It's going to make her feel invincible. She is going to wake up in that hospital bed believing she has cheated death, which means she will think she can get away with absolutely anything going forward. And speaking of people playing dangerous games, we have to talk about Andre and Danny at the club. The tension in that scene was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Andre is sitting there, visibly fidgety, practically vibrating with nervous energy, yet he forces himself to stare deeply into Danny's eyes and tell her she is more beautiful than Helen of Troy. It is such a heavy, loaded compliment, and it screams of overcompensation. He is carrying the crushing weight of his own betrayal, yet he sits there praising her. And Danny, she is sitting on his lap, kissing him, happily chatting about how right it feels to be in their Bill-free zone. The irony is just staggering. It's entirely performative on both their parts. They are acting out this perfect marriage script while both are hiding massive marriage-destroying secrets. Then Vanessa walks up and completely shatters the illusion. She's just bubbling about interior designers and handing out fabric swatches for the casino's VIP room, which, by the way, feels like a desperate metaphor for Vanessa trying to dress up the ugly criminal reality of Joey's life with pretty decorations. But in her innocent rambling, Vanessa mentions that Joey has been incredibly tense ever since Heather arrived in town. You could practically see the blood drain from Andre's face. He forces this painful plastic smile, takes a massive, desperate gulp of coffee just to have something to do with his mouth, and mutters a cryptic warning about not trusting people who claim to be something they aren't. And then he just bolts. He literally runs away. But here is where the psychology gets brilliant. Danny doesn't watch him run away and think, oh no, my husband is in danger from a ruthless crime boss. No, her mind immediately goes straight to her own sins. She starts panicking, absolutely convinced that Andre has somehow found out about her steamy elevator hookup with Bill. I keep coming back to the thought that these two aren't going to be destroyed by the actual truth coming out. They are going to destroy themselves from the inside out through the agonizing, suffocating fear of being caught. Meanwhile, Heather is out here putting on a masterclass in psychological warfare. She is playing everyone. She gushes to Smitty and Martin at Uptown, acting like she is their biggest, most devoted fan. showering them and their family with this warm, glowing admiration. But the second she steps outside, the mask drops. She spots Randy, knows exactly who he is, and that he's been tailing her for days on Joey's orders, and she completely corners him. She doesn't run. She drags him right back to the casino to face her brother. When Heather finally stands face to face with Joey, the manipulation reaches a whole new level. She spins this incredibly convincing tale about how she is just in town to dismantle her operations. She looks him in the eye and claims she has no ulterior motives other than wanting to rekindle an old romance with a guy. And right on cue, as if the universe is writing her script, her phone lights up with a text from Andre. She looks at Joey, smirks, and boasts that she might have just manifested the absolute greatest intimate encounter of her life. Joey lets her walk away, but when Randy stammers out an apology for getting caught, Joey is shockingly calm. He tells Randy he isn't mad enough to kill him because he has his own specific plans for his sister. What are Joey's plans? What if Joey is setting her up to take a massive, catastrophic fall? There is a very real possibility that Joey is perfectly fine letting Heather think she is in control, waiting for her to expose her own weaknesses. And that weakness might just be Andre. We see them meet up at the hotel and they immediately fall into this incredibly intense, hot, desperate hookup. But the reality of the danger they are in is bleeding through the walls of that hotel room. Andre is terrified, his paranoia spiking as he warns her that they can't be seen together, that Randy is stalking her every move. Heather just brushes it off with this terrifying confidence, assuring him that she caught Randy and the coast is completely clear. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I don't think Heather is nearly as safe as she believes she is. She is severely underestimating Joey's strategic mind, and Andre is vastly underestimating the psychological toll this double life is going to take on him. He is playing with fire, and he is absolutely going to get burned. We needed a breather from all this suffocating toxicity, and the writers gave us this beautiful, grounded moment at Orphe Jeans with June, Tyrell, and Samantha. June is just glowing with this quiet, hard-earned peace. She brings the kids peach cobbler waffles, adding extra whipped cream, just luxuriating in the simple joy of being a mother. She talks openly about how profoundly grateful she is to be sober, to have a steady job, to just sit in a booth with her children. When she looks at Tyrell and bursts into tears because she realizes her little boy is suddenly a grown man, it hits so incredibly hard. Tyrell opens up and confesses that Jessica broke up with him, and June gives him this incredibly wise, gentle advice about how he is simply too young to be tied down, especially with his good looks. Then Isaiah pops up, bringing this great, lighthearted banter, teasing Tyrell about gaining the freshman 15 and normalizing the heartbreak as just a standard, necessary part of growing up. Before they leave, June gives Tyrell a precious childhood photo of him and Samantha to hang in his dorm room. Tyrell grabs her hand, looks her in the eye, and tells her he loves her, and they all share this tearful, beautiful, healing hug. It is a moment of pure grace. But guys, in a show like this, whenever we get a moment of pure, unadulterated happiness and family bonding, I can't help but feel that tragedy is lurking right around the corner. The truth might be more complex than it appears, and this happiness feels fragile. Speaking of that photo, it makes its way back to Smitty and Martin's house, leading to a scene that perfectly contrasts the warmth of family with the chilling reality of their world. I loved the little comedic domestic moment of Smitty and Martin rushing downstairs, hastily buttoning their shirts after clearly sharing an intimate moment just as the kids walk through the door. Samantha looks at the photo June gave them and has this poignant realization. She remembers that it was taken on one of the last good days before June lost her sobriety and relapsed. Smitty is quick to reassure them, promising that they have so much to look forward to in the future. But the shadow of Heather is looming over this happy home. Earlier, Smitty was telling Martin how Heather was the first person to truly recognize him and show genuine interest in his investigative work. They start speculating about what Leah might know, trying to piece the puzzle together. Martin is terrified for his husband. He begs Smitty to be careful, warning him that exposing this massive criminal ring simply isn't worth risking his life. What if Heather's admiration for Smitty isn't just a clever manipulation tactic to keep him off balance? What if she genuinely wants to pull him into her dark world, or worse, use him to legitimize herself? There is something about this that doesn't sit right with me. Heather doesn't do anything by accident. She is weaving a web, and Smitty is standing right in the center of it. Finally, we have to talk about the absolute nightmare unfolding for Chelsea. She is sitting in the lobby with Kat, trying so desperately to convince herself that she is okay. She tells Kat she actually managed to sleep, even though she is secretly terrified that her half-baked ex-stalker is coming back for her. Isaiah comes over getting coffee for Ava, and they end up talking about Tyrell's recent heartbreak. Chelsea makes this incredibly heavy loaded comment about how some people just can't get over the shock of romantic rejection and will hold on to it forever. Isaiah is completely confused by the intensity of the remark and leaves. Chelsea immediately spirals, worrying she sounded ridiculous and unhinged. Kat steps up as the ultimate best friend here, fiercely reassuring her, reminding her that Jacob checked and confirmed that the stalker is securely locked up without any access to a phone. But the truth is so much darker and more terrifying than either of them realize. The camera cuts to the mental facility, and we see Allison. She is sitting there methodically writing a letter to Chelsea and placing it into a box full of other items. And when Chelsea actually receives this physical letter, the panic is visceral. You can see the PTSD come flooding back, drowning her in memories she has fought so hard to suppress. Kat goes into full protective mode, filled with rage, wanting to march down to that facility and teach Allison a lesson she'll never forget. But Chelsea, terrified and hyperventilating, stops her. She knows how truly dangerous Allison is. She knows Allison is completely unhinged and has nothing to lose. I could be wrong, but I firmly believe Allison doesn't need to physically escape that facility to destroy Chelsea's life. She is already inside Chelsea's head. The sheer tactile nature of a handwritten letter, the fact that Allison touched that paper, formed those words, and managed to get it into Chelsea's hands proves that locked doors mean absolutely nothing. How did she get it out? Who is helping her on the inside? It seems like this nightmare is only just beginning, and I fear Chelsea is going to be pushed to her absolute breaking point. Who do you think will crack first under the pressure? Will it be Danny, consumed by her own guilt? Andre, caught in Heather's web? Or Chelsea, haunted by a ghost that refuses to stay buried? I guess we'll just have to wait and see.